Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the HurryUp podcast. I'm Adam, joined by my friend Anthony.
What's going on?
So, big news for Houston. We finally reached our second World Series appearance after much anticipation over how well the Astros have done over the season. What do you think, Anthony?
I think it's pretty exciting. I think it's good for the city of Houston after coming off of course, a horrible event over the summer. And I think it'll really boost the morale of Houston. And as of recording this, Game 2 is already in the books, and they'll be coming home for the 3-game stretch. So it's a really exciting time in Houston.
Yeah, and it was a great break just after finally beating the Yankees in Game 7 and forcing elimination to get that wild card berth, or World Series berth, sorry. But it didn't get any easier versus the Dodgers. Could argue easily the toughest pitching that we faced, and Game 1 really showed it with Clayton Kershaw pitching for them.
I would say that yes. I would also say that Keuchel did pitch a decent game. He just got out-pitched. And I would say that first game, really what it came down to was that two-hit homer that really kind of sunk our spirits, and we just couldn't climb out of that hole. And something like that almost happened this game, but luckily we were able to kind of, I think, really learn from our past experience of last game and kind of dig our way out of that hole.
And just what was really bothering me is that this whole second game against them, we had outperformed them the whole time for the most part. I mean, you look at the ending statistics, 14 hits versus their 5. We had over 10 runners stranded on base versus their 3. I mean, it was really close because Justin Verlander pitched a very good game. He gave up 2 hits, and the 2 hits he did were homers. So I mean, he didn't pitch bad at all. It was just the pitches he made that were poor. Just they made him pay for it.
Yeah, it was these last 2 games have felt very homer heavy for sure. And I know especially last game, all the scoring that we did came off of homers. It felt like in Game 1 they weren't really getting too many base hits, and they weren't getting too much contact up the middle of the field, or even or just a lot of drops. It just felt like it was very, like I said, homer and no real base hits in Game 1, and even some of Game 2 too as well.
Yeah, and I was talking with a couple of buddies of mine, and this was a must-win for us because you don't want to go down 2-0, even when you're going back home, because best case scenario is you can be up by 1 game, and look at how that did for the Yankees. I mean, they ended up going back to Houston and losing out. So I think this was very much a must-win for us. We need to win at least 2 of the 3 that are in Houston. This is going to be a very huge, break, obviously huge, but, make or break for the season homestand for us.
Yeah, I would say that in the playoffs, this go around, home field advantage has been a very, very strong presence for just about every team, really. But Houston a lot. I think every game we've won has pretty much been at home, excluding the Dodgers game, or the last night.
Game 1. I gotcha.
Well, Game 2 tonight.
Okay.
I think every other win has been at home, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we won 1 game in Boston.
Oh, excuse me, 1 game in Boston.
Yeah, 1.
So sorry, so 2 games we won on the road, and the rest have went on home. So it's been a very at home. You're feeling energized and winning for sure this off pro season.
Yeah, and one thing that's really bothered me, and I don't know if you read this article, but I read that Josh Reddick played for the Dodgers last season, and after we beat the Yankees, he was saying, "Oh, I wanted to play the Dodgers so I can beat them in the World Series because I remember I would be playing at home last year and they would be booing me." And he's playing like a scrub this World Series. He's been awful.
He's been on everybody except for the last Yankees game, and then of course this Dodgers game. everybody has not been well, so I don't place that solely on him. He actually did a lot for us during the regular season. Hey, granted, he does need to step up and start getting some solid contact on balls. I think pretty much everything last night or everything tonight was outs, fly. How many hits did he get tonight? It was a couple. He did some stuff tonight, I think.
I mean, I'm looking right now, and he was 1 for 4.
Oh, sorry, excuse me, 1 for 4. So I mean, he didn't do much, but I feel.
I'm okay with him saying that, but just back it up, you know. Like, I mean, maybe say that after we win. Sometimes you look kind of dumb saying that.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't. You know, you kind of just get down on luck. You get into a slump, and you can't do anything. He did pretty decent during the regular season, so.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm not trying to dog on him.
Sounds like you are.
No, just don't say that and don't back it up. I mean, you get benched by our guy Cameron Maybin, and Maybin actually shows up with the single, and then Springer goes and hits the homer. I don't know if he gets on base because that run that Maybin helped us score ended up proving very costly against the Dodgers. Otherwise, they would have tied it up and go into maybe a 12th inning.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shoulda, woulda, coulda kind of game, so who knows?
Yeah, but what do you think of, because a lot of controversy has been made of our leadoff man struggling a lot in this World Series, George Springer's. You think he's finally broken out of the slump with how he played in the last few innings?
It's hard to say. I think that coming home, he'll have a much better chance to start being the Springer he was during the regular season. I mean, that Dodger Stadium was very loud and very distracting, and I think coming home will definitely give him a bit of an advantage. Am I going to say he's totally broken out of that slump? You know, it's hard to say, but I think he'll do a much better job at home.
Yeah, I agree. I think just maybe the home crowd's going to help him rally and get his performance and maybe see the ball a little bit better, because I know there was just some times in Game 1 where he was just straight swinging out of his shoes, and then a couple at-bats later, he was just staring at everything going his way. So, I mean, hopefully that he can get it together here on out and play like the George Springer that we've seen all season, because his play on the outfield has shown up. I mean, making that catch over Marwin in Game 7 against the Yankees. I mean, it's just his bat that hasn't followed suit. So, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like I said, this last game, he came alive a little bit. 2 for 4 or 3 for 5. It was something like that, I believe, the final thing.
Yeah, it was 3 for 5.
3 for 5. So I think he got a little better. I think just about everybody did at the end of that game too. So we'll see how it goes at home.
But what do you think of that game too? Just getting the lead, losing it, getting the lead, losing it, getting the lead, narrowly losing it. I mean, I had never been on the edge of my seat so much so. I mean, overall, it was such a great game. And even if we would have lost it, of course, be disappointed. But, I mean, that was such a good game all around.
I think it comes down to pitching. Once we get past Verlander and Keuchel, there are some guys that can do some stuff. But when we're out on the road, it seems like past Verlander and past Keuchel, nobody's really stepping up. I mean, Giles had an okay couple of pitches there, but it got away from him real fast all of a sudden. So it seems past those two guys, I don't know if when we go on home it's going to shore them up. Yeah, the home field advantage can cure a lot of things, but if we got to go back on the road, I just don't know if I trust past those first couple guys, the starters. Which
I just think.
I was saying, well, that's common in most World Series. I mean, you saw how many times the Dodgers switched out their guys going into the later half or later innings. But
I'm actually glad you said that, because I was actually going to hit on that. I mean, it was just, to me, I was amazed that they only let their starter go 4 full innings, and he only threw 60 pitches of one-run baseball. He wasn't doing bad. I mean, he wasn't on from his location right out of the gate, you know, giving that lead-up walk to Springer, but he was pretty decent. I mean, I think I'd have let him go another inning or two before turning to that bullpen, because, just knowing that he went through all of his guys, Dave Roberts, I mean, it just doesn't look good.
He went through a lot of his guys, but they didn't throw a lot of pitches, so I wonder if they just pulled him because they know they need him going into this home stretch for the Astros, so I wonder if they're letting him pitch as little as possible to keep him rested, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously speaking, if you're the Dodgers, you need to steal a game. I mean, otherwise it's over. I think if you're the Dodgers, to feel really comfortable, obviously try and steal two. But we're a tough team at home. I mean, statistically, it's been proven. But you're right. And I think maybe the Dodgers manager is just a little premature on pulling his guys, because there was one guy that came in and threw 4 pitches, and then he was done pitching for the night because he gave up a walk. So I think he's a little trigger happy, you could say.
I think they were just trying to find something to close out this very close game in which they had the lead. They tied it up, and then they lost the lead twice and caught back up at least one of the times. So I think he was just trying to find anything that was going to cement his team, especially after having back-to-back homers. I think he was just trying to find something to get over the Astros.
Yeah, no, I get it. I agree. But that was all I had about recapping this game for the most part. I mean, the big question for me, asking towards you, is how do you see the rest of the series panning out?
I think man, the way they're playing now, it seems like they're going to go to Game 7, right? It's hard to see it go any other way. Maybe.
It seems like these teams are just so evenly matched, though, too.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too, because even Game 1 was still really close. Like I said,
yeah.
The only
There's
thing
one swing of the bat.
One swing of the bat, and they got up. They got up those 2 points. Before that, it was tied 1-1 with just two homers, and that's all the scoring that was happening. So they do, like you said, seem like be a pretty evenly matched team. They're both excellent at pitching. They both got a very solid lineup of hitters. As evident by bringing pretty much a home run fest in Game 2, scoring match for match. So I see Game 7 just because they're so evenly matched. And I don't know if that's going to be in favor of the Astros, because you got to go play those last 2 games away. So I think they'll steal 1, maybe 2 on us at home.
Okay. I don't know what. I think either. I really honestly do believe this could go either way, but I'm picking with my heart. I don't care what the stats say. I've ridden with them all season. I said they'd go to the World Series. I'm picking the Astros in 6.
Yeah.
We've just been such a dominant team at home. I think winning 2 at home is very plausible.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6 too, but I was torn whether between I wanted to say 6 or 7. I wasn't sure, so I was going with at least saying, the final bout.
No, and I get it. I mean, like you made a great point. I mean, both of these games have been extremely close. I mean, both of them arguably could have been different by the swing of the bat. I mean, Justin Turner hits that homer against us in the bottom of the 6th. And Game 1 gives them the 3-1 lead, and then they just hold on to it with their bullpen. These games could have easily teeter-tottered either way, I mean, in their favor or ours. So, I mean, I definitely could see it going to a Game 7 as well.
Got anything else for the Astros?
No, I would just go Stros. I mean, fortunate enough to get back to the big deal just after 12 years. Some teams wait so much longer. And
first win and first World Series win of Astros history. So that's awesome. It's always nice.
And I just feel like we have some momentum finally going. And I'm not saying that our offensive slumps have been solved on the road, because for whatever reason, we had the second best road record in baseball this year, and they've just completely froze up in the playoffs ever since the Yankees series. So, and they didn't even play all that well in Fenway either. They just, finally stole one. But I mean, this is a game that I could see carrying some momentum and hopefully leads to some historic things for us.
Yeah.
But that's all I got on the Astros, so I guess we can move on over to the Texans.
All right. Well, Texans pretty handily beat the Cleveland before they took their bye, 33-17. And going into the bye, they're sitting at a okay 3-3. Of course, you'd like to be, have a couple more wins in there before you go on the bye, but beggars can't be choosers at this point. But I think this bye week really will give them a rest like it does every team. And going into Seattle, they're definitely going to need it.
Just the one thing I guess I just take away from that is when we were recording that game before, I had no idea that we had kind of touched on it before, but I had no idea that Hogan was going to start at quarterback for them. I thought Kaiser was going to be their guy. That was kind of why I had kept hitting on Kaiser the whole talk up. So that was my mistake. But Hogan, that was his first career start. He really didn't show much. I mean, 20 for 37, 140 yards in that game thrown. Those are Brock Osweiler numbers. I mean, those are terrible. 3 picks, 4 sacks. Well, they're a rebuilding team all around, though.
It's Cleveland football. I like the fact that the defense didn't take them lightly and still continued to pound the ball. I think Jonathan Joseph had a pick 6 in that game. Actually not 2 pick 6s, but 2 picks, I believe, right? 1 pick 6 and 1 pick. So it's nice to see that secondary, kind of come alive. And this Cleveland game was a very kind of get healthy kind of game, especially coming off the couple injuries we've been having. So it is nice to transition from that Cleveland team into the bye week, getting basically, I don't want to say it's 2 weeks rest because you still had to play the game, but it's nice not having a super hard team going into a playoff or going into a rest.
Into the bye.
Yeah.
And one thing I gotta mention, my prediction was pretty dead on. I called the 34-13.
Yeah, good for you.
No big.
Good for you. I don't know. You want a cookie or something?
No, I'm just saying because you were giving like Cleveland all these props and saying how we were going to take them lightly. So, I mean, I had to throw that in there.
Look, they could have very well done that. Watson came out firing out of that game pretty well. Had a good control of the ball. The defense didn't give them too much to work with. I still think that they probably gave Corral and the Cleveland's Duke Johnson more yards than they really needed. And if you look at that game, that could have been a lot worse. Cleveland was on a roll those first couple drives. They were getting down to the other end of the field. They were just stalling out once they got closer to the red zone. So that game could have been a little bit worse than it was. They just luckily got the shutdowns with the picks and stopping them on third downs. But the Cleveland was running the ball pretty efficiently, I would say.
Yeah, but when you fall so far behind, it doesn't matter how good you're running the ball. You're going to need to throw, and their guy couldn't do it.
Well, yeah, and that's what it came down to because they were getting downfield, and then they gave the ball to Hogan, and then he couldn't do anything. He was off the mark, throwing way over his receivers' heads and out of bounds. So luckily that did save us. But what I said in the preview for the game came true is that we still need to look at our run defense because that has been an area where we have been up and down in for sure.
You know what's sad is that's honestly our strength when you put that in comparison against our secondary.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just being honest.
Yeah,
when you put them up against each other, that's honestly the better one of the two. I know what you mean. It's not good.
It's not good. Like I said, and Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson aren't anybody to bat an eye at. I think they're way better than people give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just one area that you really got to kind of shore up if that's going to be your shiny beacon. That front line really needs to look at what they're doing. And I think they'll get better at it. I think this bye will help them. I think not Newton. Who's the new nose tackle that's shifted over from another position?
Max?
No.
Talking about Max?
No, there's another. No, there's somebody that was a nose tackle that became a nose tackle this season. Anyways, I can't think of his name, but the nose tackle is doing a good job of shoring up the middle. They're just running to the right or left of us. So if those
I know they inserted like Nick Martin
for nose tackle.
Yeah, I thought so.
Isn't he an offensive lineman?
The guy that we drafted.
Isn't he an offensive lineman? No, Nick Martin's playing on the line.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about center.
No, nose tackle.
Nose tackle. Oh, I have no idea.
Anyways, I think that line will get better and it'll help out with having this bye week. So we'll see what they do in the next couple of games.
So I guess let's pull on in a bull rush for the week.
Bull rush.
Anthony, do you want to start off?
Yeah. Luckily, the NFL has graced us this time of having both of our AFC South competitors fighting off against each other, so that makes this a whole lot easier. The Tennessee Titans, or no, excuse me, the Jaguars faced off against the Colts in what was pretty much a whooping, and they didn't even have Leonard Fournette. Ivory was their main back due to them wanting to rest Fournette. Since they had the Indy game, which they didn't think they needed him. And then they also have a bye coming up in this week. And Blake Bortles actually was doing all right against the Colts' lackluster defense. And
He was like fifth in passing yards. That's insane.
yeah, in a game that got out of hand pretty fast. The Colts, I don't know what's going on with them. Andrew Luck is still out, still not throwing. So that is that's a detriment to their offense. I think Brissett took a step back. He did all that he could with what he had, but I think against a Jacksonville defense that is actually playing pretty well this season with Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye and that whole front line just really getting to the quarterback and getting a lot of quarterback hits. I think that they will trail off because in the end they do have Blake Bortles and he's a very up and down, mostly down kind of quarterback. But we'll see how they going forward. And for the Colts, I have no words of endearment. It's a lost season for you. I'm sorry.
It's a lost season. Dang. Oh, well, okay. So I guess moving a little way further away from that, but I was at a loss for words when I saw this. But the Titans actually barely pulled out a win over the Browns in overtime.
Yeah, the Titans are in a predicament right now with Mariota. He's still not 100% healthy, and he's still not throwing properly. He's still having to stay in the pocket and be a pocket passer, which, as you know, Mariota is not a pocket passer. He likes to get out of the pocket and throw and run the ball. So his throws are not quite on the money. Haven't been. And also their line, they're having terrible line play. And even the Browns' front seven are able to get to Mariota and get quarterback hits, especially with Myles Garrett on that line. They just had terrible line play. Mariota was not on the money. He's trying to pocket pass when he's not supposed to be. And that Titans defense has not really been stepping up. Any of the games really they've been playing, their defense has not been great.
But it's just a field goal battle? I mean, I get it. He's not at 100%. I just really thought more of Mariota. I mean, his numbers, 21 of 34, okay, I guess. I mean, he barely hit the 200-yard mark, took a couple sacks. He only had one run with his legs, which I think is kind of unusual for him. Usually things aren't going too well with his arm, but to your point, you said that he likes to use his wheels, and he didn't.
No. Like I said, something is just not right with him. He is ever since that injury this season. I think they rushed him back a little sooner than they needed to, and it just has not been a good couple games for him. Like I said, they just barely pulled it out over the Browns, who in fact even lost their. Speaking about the defense, they even lost their left tackle. Joe Thomas is now out for the rest of the season. So you couldn't even get past the offensive line. It's even weakened even more. I just have a lot of questions about that defense.
And I mean, you're probably right that they did rush Mariota back sooner than they needed to, but I can't totally fault it though either, because they're with that win that puts them at 4-3. They're right up there, barely holding on to the division lead, and you saw how they were performing with Matt Castle. I mean, do you feel like maybe it was more of a desperation move on trying to continue to hold on to the lead in the division maybe?
I think it is. I think they got lucky. They had an opponent in the Browns that they still had to go to overtime with. I think any other team they're facing, they're 3-4 instead of 4-3.
Yeah.
Look, DeMarco Murray also did not have a good game. I mean, he only got 59 yards, and Derrick Henry only had 13 yards out of 13 carries, by the way. So that's not a great stat you want from either one of this exotic smash mouth running back core that you have. And I think that also kind of goes back to that line that didn't give them any kind of holes or any kind of openings to really bust out and get loose on. I think they have the same problem that the Colts have. They're just able to mask it a little better than the Colts are.
Do you think that maybe... Okay, so they were playing the Browns, and me and you both agree that they're not the stiffest competition. Do you think that maybe they should have held out Mariota a week? Because they're going into the bye this week. Do you think Matt Castle would have been enough to get it done?
No, of course not. I memean, look, I think they rushed Mariota back too far. I don't fault them for that because who do you have behind him? You have Matt Castle and you have Whedon behind them. So those aren't two stellar guys that are going to win you games. And it's obvious that Matt Castle definitely wasn't going to win you games. You signed Whedon, and I know he doesn't know your offense. I wonder if Mariota gets hurt again, who do they turn to? Do they turn to Whedon or they turn to Matt Castle? Or do they look at another option and signing another veteran guy? Because that offensive line is terrible. Mariota is going to keep getting hit all season, and if he doesn't get healed soon, he's going to have to still be in that pocket and get hit, and he's going to get hurt again if they don't figure out some way for him to start moving or that offensive line starts playing better. So I think he's going to get injured again, and they'll have to turn to another guy, one of the guys they've either signed now or they're going to have to sign another guy off the street. Or trade. I agree. Or trade. Maybe.
But who do you go for?
Teddy.
That's where it kind of gets...
I think Teddy Bridgewater's out there. I think that it's obvious that the Vikings may not stick around with him, so I think you can trade like a second or third round pick for Teddy Bridgewater. Come in, have him learn the system. I think they haven't had their bye yet, so I think you do it before the bye. And then you really try to turn your season around because right now, Mariota, he's just not 100% healthy. And like I said, he's going to get injured again, I think, this season. It's only a matter of when.
Do you think... Because I think, honestly, the Vikings would give up Sam Bradford easier than they would Teddy Bridgewater.
No, they like Sam Bradford more than they like Teddy Bridgewater. I think that's apparent by not giving him another contract when he was injured. I think they'll roll with Sam Bradford.
You don't think that maybe his leg issue and not knowing the reliability on it maybe didn't play a factor?
I think it played some factor, but I still think they're going to ride Sam Bradford more than they're going to ride Teddy Bridgewater. I think they like Case Keenum more than they're going to like Teddy Bridgewater right now because they don't know what they have. They don't know what they have in Teddy Bridgewater right now. So I think they're going to eventually play him because they have to play him because Case Keenum did not play a great game against the Vikings or the other team that they faced. They just got lucky that they faced a non-Aaron Rodgers-led Packers, and I think that they will turn to Teddy Bridgewater for now. Oh, and they beat the Ravens this week, so not exactly stiff competition.
Yeah. So we're third in the division right now, sitting at 3-3. The Jags and Titans are tied up at 4-3. Titans have it because they won over the Jags in the past. Do you think that maybe the Jags can start to maybe get a bit of a leap over Tennessee just because of their quarterback debacle over in Tennessee and not knowing the certainty of Mariota's injury status?
No, I think it's going to be a tough race between us, the Jags, and the Titans. Because I think the Titans will eventually figure out some kind of way to win because Mariota is a good player, so I think they will kind of stay around in the race. I think DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry will figure it out eventually. And the Jags, while they do have Leonard Fournette and Chris Ivory, who had a good game while Leonard Fournette was out, I think that they will mask some of Blake Bortles' inabilities, but I think that inability will come back to bite them, and he will keep them from going way beyond what they can already do. I think if they had a quarterback who was better than Blake Bortles, a game manager or somebody like that, they could definitely be ahead in this division, no problem. But because they have Blake Bortles, who isn't winning them games, he's kind of keeping them down. So I think it'll be a tight race between all three of us, excluding the Colts, who, like I said, it's a lost season. I'm sorry.
You're not sorry.
I'm not.
I'm not sorry at all. No. All those years of domination, no, this is fine with me.
Yeah. So I think that's just how the way it's going to turn out.
Well, that's all I got for Bull Rush. You got anything else to
add? Not for Bull Rush, but I did figure out what our nose tackle was. DJ Reader. He's playing a great job at nose tackle.
DJ Reader completely slipped my mind. I forgot all about it.
He's playing really good at nose tackle, and he's really stopping the runs up the middle. So kudos to you, man.
Well, so I guess looking more towards the Texans now, some pretty sizable news. Dwayne Brown's returning to the team. What do you think this means?
Nothing. He's only returning to the team because we couldn't find anybody to trade with us. Nobody wanted to trade with a guy who's uncertain about his contract and who's holding out like he did.
I'd be honest, I don't know if Rick Smith... I mean, I guess you never know because we're not there, but I didn't read any reports that Rick Smith was shopping him, though, either. I don't even know if he was trying.
I read a couple reports. That he came back because there's nobody that we could really find that really wanted to take him. I can't remember where I read. It may have been an ESPN article. I thought I saw something like that. Even if there wasn't an article, I think that's another reason why he's coming back because... Who wants to take a guy who's going to hold out for 7 weeks and is complaining about his contract? Not that too many people. I mean, unless you really need a left tackle, like really. A left
tackle's a premium in the league.
They are. But
I feel like if you're a contender and you just need that piece, I feel like there's a team.
Yeah, but he wants a lot of money, and I don't think he will. I don't. It's very uncertain property, and statistically. He's been like average, average to above average, realistically. He's a good centerpiece for that team and has been for a couple years to rally that offensive line. But I think with the play that we're kind of having now to average to above average plays, I just don't think he's that necessary, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't mind trading him away, getting something for him. I read a what-if scenario today where we would trade him to Seattle for a second-round pick because they need that left tackle position because they're very unhappy with their left tackle. So we could shop him to them and get a second-round pick in return for him because we have no picks in this upcoming draft. So that would be very helpful for us.
Well, I don't know if you've seen any film, but Russell Wilson's been running for his life. He has no protection at all. His offensive line is absolute garbage. So I think any help would be a boost for them. If I could get a second round for Dwayne Brown, the injury-ridden guy who likes to speak out about a contract, we took a while to re-sign Hopkins. I'm sorry. With your whole injury issues, if I could get a second round pick for him, I would ship him off quick. Oh, that's just me.
For sure.
Especially with how solid our line has been, too. I mean, Chris Clark has really stepped up, and he's young.
That whole offensive line has really stepped up at times. They're playing better than I would have expected them to play. They even were holding up for Watson, where he didn't need to run out of the pocket, but he did and run into some tackles. So they've really kind of stepped up and given him a decent amount of protection and letting him kind of throw it downfield.
So that was kind of the biggest news. Not too much rumbling throughout the bye week, but I guess looking ahead to Seattle, I mean, how do you see this game playing out?
Well, I told you about a crazy stat that you didn't think was real, but Seattle has the number one scoring defense in the league right now.
I can't believe that.
Yeah. So it's going to be a test, for Deshaun Watson. Granted, it's not the Legion of Boom like they were. They have had some injuries and some mishaps.
And Sherman's not what he was.
No, he's kind of degraded. And so I think that's going to be a big part of it. I also know that Seattle has not had a great track record, I believe, at stopping the run like we have. So I think Lamar Miller and Devontae Freeman are going to be big keys to this game, setting up play action and just getting big runs off Seattle and setting us up in a real great position. That being said, I still think it's going to be a tough game for the whole offense and the defense because, granted, they don't have the weapons like they did. Thomas Rawls has not been that great this season. Some of their wideouts have not been great. I don't know what happened to Graham, but he's kind of really fallen off as well as far as the tight end position, Jimmy Graham. Mm-hmm. So, but I still think you're facing Russell Wilson, who is an elite quarterback. So I still think you will have a difficult time beating them on the offense. That being said, Deshaun has been really great this season. He's now second overall in overall touchdowns, and only because he had a bye week. So Carson Wentz took that honor, having 17 touchdowns, and Watson has thrown 15 touchdowns. So I think it'll be a battle between them throughout the rest of the season. But I still think Deshaun and Freeman and Lamar Miller give you an opportunity to win this game. I think the defensive play is just good enough to kind of hold up Seattle.
Russell Wilson is very similar to the way let me rephrase that. Deshaun Watson plays very similar to how Russell Wilson plays, and the fact that they can escape the pocket, buy some time, and just make things happen, even despite Russell Wilson not having the greatest line in football. I think a stat that jumps out at me is Deshaun's touchdown to interception ratio is 3-1. That's a game changer when it comes down to it. I feel like Deshaun has more weapons at his disposal to make things happen, even though they have a very solid defense. I think as long as he's not errant with the football, make sure that he does the right throws and does his check down passes if he needs to, throws it away, doesn't take that hit. I think that this is a game that we can come away with. Just Russell doesn't have the weapons. You said it yourself, Graham hasn't been what he was. Thomas Rawls hasn't been contributing. His number one option's Doug Baldwin, who hasn't been the greatest. He's been solid, but hasn't been the best. So this is a game that despite being on the road, I could see us pulling away with.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle has not played. They're 4-2, but they played some good and some not good teams. I mean, just recently they beat the Giants, and it's the Giants, so they're not having a good season. They're also having another lost season. So they beat the Giants. And then
let me read 3 wins for you. They beat the 49ers in week 2, they beat the Colts in week 4, and then they beat the Giants last week. Those are 3 easy wins.
The only hard win they have faced right now has been that really good LA Rams team.
Yeah, the Rams have been really solid this year.
So and that's the only team they beat, and it's only been by 6 points. So that was a really tightly contested, and they didn't even win by a touchdown. It was 2 field goals. So it's not like Russell Wilson was driving down the field and getting that touchdown score to beat them. So that could have been a very attainable game. So I think it'll be a tough win. I still think they could get the win. They're rested. They're ready to go. The only thing that really kind of worries me is that left tackle position in Dwayne Brown. I was talking to you, and I had this thought that Dwayne Brown has not practiced with Deshaun Watson at all, any post or preseason anything. So I'm very concerned about his timing as far as Deshaun, because he knew the offense that was set up for Tom Savage. Obviously, Bill O'Brien has pared down that system and it's kind of tailored that system to Deshaun Watson. So I don't know if he's going to be in the right snap count or if he's going to be in sync with them. So definitely look for probably a couple penalties on Dwayne Brown, some false starts and things like that.
I know at the end of the day it's just blocking's blocking, but I feel like you should maybe give this. I think if I was Bill O'Brien, I'd give the start to Chris Clark and then maybe ease him into it and just, get a feel for how Deshaun plays, because you're right, the snap count, the cadence are going to be completely different from Deshaun to how Tom was. And I don't even think he really played that much with Tom this year because he held out right away. He hasn't really played much football, period. And I'm assuming he's in football shape. I assume he's been continuing to work out and everything. Otherwise, then he's completely out of it. I'm not saying that he's not going to make, the active roster or that he's not going to play, but I just don't think that O'Brien may use him in the full role that he's been in the past.
Yeah, I could definitely see it going that way.
Do you think the weather plays any factor in it? I see it's going to be 58 degrees. It's pretty cold for us.
It is. But it's been pretty cold in Houston, so I don't know. I mean, granted, we play in a closed-off stadium. Yeah. I don't. 58's not too bad. I don't think that's a degree where you're really going to be too affected by it. If you had told me it was in the 30s and 20s and maybe snowing, then I would probably say yes. But with 50 degrees, 58, 60 degrees, I don't think it'll play that much of a factor.
I guess it's just going to really come down to see if wind plays any factor, maybe for Fairbairn, but I think that'd be the biggest issue.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. I think wind will be the biggest thing.
Yeah, I'm looking and I see that going in that the Seahawks are favored by 5.5 points. What do you make of that?
I think that's.
I guess what I'm going towards is what is your prediction, I guess, for the game?
I think that 5 is really banking on Russell Wilson being Russell Wilson. I think there's still a lot of stock in that name, so I think that's in the old Seahawks of old. So I think that's why it's really like that. I will pick a Seattle win. Because I gotta go with
Gosh, I hope you're wrong.
No.
Because we need this win.
No, I see it. I see a
it
Texans
could
win.
be a loss.
I see a Texans win. It's gonna be close. It'll probably come down to a field goal or a last-minute touchdown. I think Deshaun throws 2 touchdowns and maybe Lamar gets 1, and Freeman gets probably 1. So I'm thinking somewhere around. Maybe Freeman doesn't get 1. 24-21.
Okay.
Actually, excuse me. Yeah, 24-21. I was trying to think if they were going to kick any field goals because that's what they've really been doing. But actually, I'm going to go 27-24. 27-24 is my final.
And Texans?
Yeah.
So you're saying that Deshaun's going to get 1, Lamar's going to get a couple?
No, I say Deshaun's going to get 2, Lamar's going to get 1, Freeman's going to get 1, and they'll have a field goal somewhere. Wait. 21. I'm trying to count. What did I say?
You said 27-24, Houston.
I meant 20. What did I mean? No. What did I mean? What did I mean, Adam? What am I talking about right now? What is life?
I don't know.
What is life?
I don't know what life is, but
yes, they'll get 21 points and they'll get 2 field goals. That's exactly what I meant to say.
Okay.
So
yeah,
3 touchdowns, 2 field goals.
2 touchdowns by Deshaun, 1 with Lamar, and then a couple of field goals. Yeah, I got you.
Yep, that's what I meant to say. Totally, I had that under control.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So what you got?
I'm rolling with Houston. This is a must-win in my opinion because you don't know what's going to be going on with Jacksonville and Tennessee, and you know they're just sitting at home watching this game as far as the division rankings go. If we're really trying to get some ground on the division, this is a game that we need to pull off. I think this is a big testament to Deshaun. You could argue that this could trump the Chiefs game, even though the Chiefs, I think, in my opinion, have a better defense all around than the Seahawks do, but he was still able to put up 36 points.
A lot of that came in garbage time.
Yeah, a couple touchdowns came in garbage time. He still put up like 20-something. But you're right. I'm calling Houston 23-17. I see Deshaun getting a couple of touchdowns. Either one via the pass and the other via the run, or however that would work out, and then I see some field goals.
So we're around the same kind of scores. I just think they'll score a little bit more. I think it'll be a little bit more high scoring game. But yeah,
I could see Deshaun going into a bit of a lull, just in that first series or two, just seeing how the game's gonna be coming off, because this is a game that Deshaun, I'm sure, has been looking at. This is really gonna kind of, in my opinion, there's a couple of games in the league where you just need to win and people know that you've arrived, and just the Seahawk name and them winning the Super Bowl in the past, I think this is gonna kind of show that Deshaun is for real. Like I think this is a very meaningful game for him.
I agree.
Yep. So 23-17, I got him. You got him 27-21. This should be a good game. Should be a defensive game. So you said that they're going to pull this out late. So I guess you're saying that we're going to probably maybe be trailing late, and then maybe Deshaun kind of gets a last-minute touchdown or something?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I would love to see that, and definitely we need to. I feel this is a game we need to win if we want to stay in the loop as far as the division hunt's going, because it's going to be hard for us to just lock up a wild card. The AFC in general is pretty tough.
Yeah. Well, I think it's tough, but I also think it's wide open, too. Any team can go in there and win.
It is. I didn't think the Raiders were going to be how they are this year. They've taken a step back.
Well, it's because of all the injuries with Derek Carr, but yeah.
Well, sure, but I thought Marshawn was going to come out. I didn't think he was. I didn't think he was going to be Marshawn, like vintage Marshawn Lynch. I also didn't expect him to be pushing referees, which I think is pretty comical.
Yeah, but he was doing that to defend his friends, so I understand that. I think the real problem, we're kind of getting off subject, but I think the real problem with the Raiders is that they have no receiving core right now. I mean, Amari Cooper finally came online that last game against the Chiefs, but other than that, Amari Cooper has had a terrible season. Lots of drops, lots of bad decision making, holding onto the ball, stuff like that.
So that was all I had for us on this week for the Texans. Did you have anything else to round it off?
No. We're coming out of a bye week. Got week 8. Got 8 more left. Well, 9 more technically, but we'll see how it goes. Hoping they do well with Deshaun at the helm.
Yeah, and I wanted to move over to one last topic before we sign off is get some Rockets in there. They pulled off a win tonight over the 76ers, winning on a buzzer beater. It's pretty impressive. We were down 5 points going into the final minute, so it's kind of cool to see they come from behind win, and Eric Gordon hitting the game-winning 3 as time expires. So we started off 4-1 with some reputable wins, one against the Warriors, and then the Phillies really underrated. They're a very young team. They got Markelle Fultz, the number 1 overall pick from the draft, who hasn't even played for them yet. Ben Simmons has been lighting it up. Their last year's number 1 overall pick, and then Joel Embiid, who's been balling out. So I think they're a very underrated team that's on the rise, and I think that's a better win than people may believe.
Yeah, well, I also think it's a good win too. Losing part of your offensive bout. I mean, you don't have Chris Paul playing. Obviously, he's out, and then I believe Ariza didn't travel with us either to this game, so that's another high-scoring guy that you're also missing out. So at that point, you only have Eric Gordon and why am I blanking?
James Harden.
Those are your 2 highest offensive scoring guys, I believe, at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So you're missing a lot of your high scoring guys. So I think that also attributes to being this really close game as well. And also Ariza has also played, kind of been stepping up in that void left by Patrick Beverley being not on the team. So I think he's stepping into that kind of defensive void being left there. He's not as good, but he's trying.
Yeah, we've definitely needed him too, because you're right, losing Beverly's huge. He was number 1 all-team defense, so that's a huge gap that players just need to step up, and they have the first 5 games of the season.
Yep.
But that was all I had to say. Anything else you wanted to add today, or for this episode?
No, sorry about missing last week. We had some things come up. We felt that it would be better to kind of wait till after the Yankees series and made sure that we were going to win that game so we could talk about them in the World Series and talk about the Astros in general. Sorry about not releasing something last week.
Yeah, but we're back on it. We've not gone, so don't fear, you 5 followers out there. But
we're going to try to get
else,
on. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So we're going to try to get back onto a semi-schedule. I'm talking to Adam about maybe releasing at the early part of the week, maybe releasing on a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Yeah, well, the game's still fresh. Yeah, so that's something that I think we're going to try to get to. But in the meantime, guys, follow us on social media on _HurryUp on Twitter. Like us on Facebook at the HurryUp, and just keep giving us some feedback and support. We appreciate anything we can get. But anything else you want to add for this week?
No, that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Go Astros.